So this isn't an ordinary divorce. Justin Trudeau is the center of attention globally right now for his announcement via Instagram, and his office released statements, and so did his now ex-wife Sophie. It was all public, and they've asked very weird things such as, hey, we're the leaders of a country, or at least my ex-husband is, so please respect our privacy. It's kind of weird. So we're going to be taking a look and doing a bit of a deep dive into not only Trudeau, his separation, and the details and a possible affair, but also his dad's marriage and how that failed. And things get very, very, very weird. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we begin, I'd encourage you to give a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps grow the channel. We're en route to 400,000 subscribers, which would be on par with 1% of Canada's population, which is absolutely insane. We're fighting government suppression. We're fighting Justin Trudeau's personal algorithm. We're fighting big tech suppression. There's so many things that we're up against right now, yet we still are growing faster and have more views than mainstream media on social media. So a lot of great news from that aspect. And now let's take a look at the details of his father's marriage. So when you Google this here, it says Margaret Trudeau and Canadian politician Pierre Trudeau, which are the parents of Justin Trudeau. The elder Trudeaus had a 29-year age gap and met when Pierre was 51 years old and Margaret was 18. Now, I know a lot of people are like, age is just a number, but that's like, if you're like 25 and maybe she's like 35 or something, a 29-year difference, 51 years old and 18 is a little weird, I gotta say. So right after they met, 9 months later, they had a kid, or right after they got married, 9 months later, Justin Trudeau was born. But I mean, I know people think that Pierre was the father. It seems like he might have been from Cuba or something like that. But those are just, allegations or, conspiracies. But we're going to take a look at how his father's marriage didn't work, because Trudeau isn't the first prime minister where his marriage didn't work. He's the second. The first one was his father. Kind of weird and a very big coincidence, if you must say. It's almost like they were both doing pretty sketchy things and their wives said, yeah, no, this is getting a little weird. How about we get out of this? So let's take a look at this video here.
The announcement ended months of speculation about the marriage. It also ended a May and September romance that the nation first heard about 6 years ago, on March 5th, 1971. Trudeau was a 50-year-old swinger who wore leather jackets, drove fast cars, and made kissing pretty women a much-publicized hobby. Margaret Sinclair was a so-called flower child, just entering her adult life. They had met at an island resort, and they were secretly married in Vancouver.
They met at an island resort. Okay, I understand that there's a lot of people out there in the world, and probably some people that may even be watching this video, that have their spouse that's like, 5, 10, 15-year age gap. A 29-year age gap when you're a 51-year-old individual, and it seems like you're almost grooming a minor and you marry her at 18. That is very, very bizarre and raises a lot of red flags, but also explains a little bit of Justin Trudeau's mentality towards, all of the things happening towards children right now. They have no borders with, ages of consent, it seems, since his mom didn't have a border with that either. So I've called one person out very many times, repeatedly, in fact, and I've said it jokingly, but there's been a little bit of substance to it, as Trudeau's mistress, Trudeau's mistress. And I've said this because they always are smiling together. They're always having a great time. They're seen having lunch. They've been photographed having lunch together. There's so many reasons why there's actual substance to believe that Trudeau allegedly had an affair, or there could be something happening behind the scenes that we're not aware of between these two individuals. And the person involved is the Foreign Affairs Minister of Canada, Mistress Melanie Joly, allegedly. Melanie Joly is, I believe, somebody that has been shuffling her cabinet behind the scenes with Justin Trudeau. Let's take a look at her background. After completing her Bachelor of Laws degree at University of Montreal, which we know Trudeau is French and he is a sucker for the French accents. And so Melanie Joly, we know she has a French accent. Joly became a member of the Barreau du Québec. She subsequently received a Chevening scholarship and continued her studies in Oxford, where she received a magister jury in comparative and public law in 2013. So a bit of a smart cookie here. There she is right there. And there's reasons to believe that she has been kind of groomed in the sense to be next in line for prime minister. Politico had this to say: meet the Trudeau protege who might one day have his job. Canada's prime minister insists he's not going anywhere. His foreign affairs minister is among those contemplating what comes next. And it's my firm belief that if the polls keep going the way that they are with Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, because if they were to have an election right now or even yesterday or a month ago, Trudeau would not be winning at all. It'd be a landslide victory by the Conservative Party of Canada. They are en route to literally have a majority government, which is insane to believe. But the more time that goes on, that passes by, the better it's looking for Canadians that don't like Trudeau, which seems to be the majority, which is why you're probably going to see at this rate a Conservative majority government. And so would there be some sort of shuffling last minute to maybe give the Liberals a better chance? Well, we've never really had a first ever female prime minister. I know way back in the day, there was a chick who was there for like a few months or something like that, but that doesn't really count. She wasn't like elected. I think she was like a substitute prime minister. So disregarding that, we actually haven't had like our first female, like legit female prime minister. And so if the way that the polls keep going and the way that there's so much backlash with the Liberal government, but more around specifically Justin Trudeau, it seems to me that Melanie Joly is being groomed or conditioned to step up to the plate. From a Liberal perspective, she hits all the boxes. She's a female. She's French. That's about it. So plus, well, you know, allegedly she's hooking up with Trudeau. So that probably helps her move up the ladder a little bit more. Allegedly. Melanie Joly's political resume is longer than you might think. Student activist leader, out of the blue candidate who nearly became a big city mayor and now Canada's face on the world stage, which is what her job is as foreign affairs minister of Canada. She's traveling around and meeting a whole bunch of people from different countries and kind of being, to a certain extent, in quotation marks, the face of Canada. But all members of parliament have, you know, a fiduciary duty to do that. But foreign affairs minister, a little bit more in a certain sense. The foreign minister's career, which includes a high-profile cabinet demotion, has elevated her into a cluster of Liberals who could one day take over from party leader Justin Trudeau. And I would kind of encourage you at this point right now to maybe debate my stance on that down in the comments. If you don't think that Melanie Joly would be in line for the, you know, the next prime minister of Canada, either this election as the running head or maybe a future election, then I would like to ask you in the comments, whether you're watching on, you know, mobile, a tablet, a computer, a TV, whatever it is, type down in the comments who you think would be a Liberal candidate for prime minister right now. Obviously, it's not Marco Mendicino, yes, because he's been fired, resigned, whatever you want to call it. Same with Omar Algebra. So now we're getting into slim pickings, and I just don't really see somebody else stepping up to the plate the way that Melanie Joly has kind of been conditioned for. So now let's shift over a little bit and take a look at more of Justin Trudeau's, you know, marriage. Well, I guess not marriage, but divorce, nitty gritty stuff. Toronto Sun had this to say: Prime Minister's estranged wife exempt from conflict of interest disclosures, says a report. The soon-to-be ex-Mrs. Justin Trudeau is exempt from Conflict of Interest Act disclosures under her separation agreement with the Prime Minister, according to Blacklock's reporter. Sophie Gregoire Trudeau who announced separation from Trudeau on Wednesday, registered a new federal corporation to sell communication services in 2022. Sophie and the Prime Minister have signed a legal separation agreement, the Prime Minister's office said Wednesday in a statement. They have worked to ensure all legal and ethical steps with regards to their decision to separate has been taken. Under the Act, disclosure is mandatory for a person who is cohabitating with a public office holder in a conjugal relationship. However, no disclosure is required for a person from whom a public officer holder is separated. In all support obligations and family property have been dealt with by a separation agreement or a divorce decree. However, a separation agreement or a court order is required. Okay, that's very interesting. She registered the federal corporation on April 6, 2022 at the Toronto office of Ost Legal Blacklocks reported. So it seems like they're just finding ways to both protect themselves and their assets. For some reason, when you Google Justin Trudeau's net worth, you get a variety of different things. So something as low as $40 or $50 million, even as $5 million, as low as there. And I've seen some as $40, $50 million. I've even seen some as reported into the hundreds of millions of dollars. A prime minister is not supposed to be a rich person. Yeah, they have resources for, drivers and security and maybe chefs and cleaners and things like that the average person would have to pay out of pocket for. That's the unfortunate reality of the judicial system and the perks that come with being an elected official, especially at the highest level, like a prime minister. But there's stock options that have happened over the past few years. It's all been public information. Freeland's been on the receiving end of that. Accusations in the media, I believe. So is Marco Mendicino, or specifically his wife. So there's a lot of weird things that they have access to, that they invest their money, usually through their spouses, or if their children are of age, right, through a family or family friend, or through their spouses is usually the more usual route that these politicians take in order to kind of launder some of this money and gain huge capital gains, usually likely tax-free. And so it's all just profits. And well, when you're in charge of big policies and how a country's run, or in this case, the funding of the war in Ukraine that the majority of people just are absolutely fed up with, there's a lot of profits to be made, obviously. So let's take a look at this Twitter post here. Why did the Prime Minister formalize the separation now if everyone suspected this a while ago? And so I've seen this in the comments that, hey, they've been Mr. Sunshine, they've been separated for a while. I get that. Sophie has not been around for press conferences. It's been Trudeau accompanied by Mistress, allegedly, Melanie Joly, and other women, liberal cabinet members and stuff like that. So there has been reasonable suspicion that they have been separated, but the actual announcement is what's making headlines right now. You can talk about, things that are suspected all day long, but when there's an actual announcement right from the horse's mouth, then that makes it a little bit more official, as I like to say. Blacklock's report provides a clever, elegant answers. Sophie is no longer a spouse. The family can now accumulate more wealth undetected and without conflict. So according to the Government of Canada, a spouse does not include a person from whom a public office holder is separated if all support obligations and family property or patrimony have been dealt with by a separation agreement or court order. So they're finding legalities around this to make themselves wealthier. Go figure, right? The rich get richer. Just Canadians can't win. And this isn't out of, investing opportunities or capital gains or increase in property value that they're able to capitalize on all this additional money. It's taxpayers' money. There's so many reasons to believe, breadcrumb trails that have been left, that they're just laundering taxpayers' money either into their own pockets, their spouse's pockets, property value that they later sell and hold as a personal asset instead of, the government of Canada's asset type of thing. It's very bizarre and very strange that this is allowed for public officials, but especially people at the highest end of that, prime ministers and or presidents, right? Like in the United States, which they have their own issue. We're going to take a look at this other Twitter clip here of somebody who's actually getting a little frustrated that the Trudeau family and the Trudeau office is asking for privacy. And I think a lot of people can relate to what this woman has to say.
All right, so I have to comment on Justin and Sophie Trudeau, the breakup of the year. I mean, is anybody surprised by this announcement?
No. Not really.
We all saw this for years now in the making. She was doing limit public appearances with him. So yes, nobody is surprised. But what I am surprised about is the fake conservatives and the woke leftist media telling me that I have to stay quiet and provide privacy for Justin Trudeau during this hard time. Really, a hard time. Yeah, no, we're not going to give him any privacy and get distracted the fact that he's tanking in the polls and the economy is a disaster. But other than that, this government, this Liberal government, decided to invoke the Emergencies Act on Canadians and freeze bank accounts, as well as release a donor list of people that donated to the convoy.
So they doxed people, and we've known that for a while. And that's why there's so much hatred, or one of the very many reasons why there's so much hatred towards Trudeau and the Trudeau family and things like that, and specifically our government. People are fed up. They've asked for privacy. It's unlikely that anyone will actually respect that except for radical woke leftists, because people are angry, which is why you see Justin Trudeau get swarmed all the time. It's not out of the blue. It's the actual tangible emotions that Canadians have that are venting in a peaceful way by heckling the Prime Minister and his posse of gangsters pretty much everywhere they go. And so I'll pass the question off to you, the viewers. Do you think that it's justified? Do you think that the hatred that the Trudeau government, the Trudeau family has is actually justified? Or do you think that we should cut them some slack in these very emotional and troubling times of going through a divorce? I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And that seems to be where we're actually going to end this video. So if you have any comments or questions or concerns about any of the topics that I just covered, I'd love to read them down below in the comments once the video is posted. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to give a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video. If you want to support the channel financially, you can do so by checking out the merch shop linked right up there. Or if you want to do something for free, which is also absolutely acceptable and highly encouraged, you can subscribe right there. If you want to continue watching videos like this, you can do so by clicking or tapping right there to watch the next upcoming video. And if you want to watch a little bit of different content, but also Canadian stuff, you can do so by clicking right up there. That's my second channel, House of Canada, also known as the House of Commons Highlights. Thanks so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.